Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a point in life when you stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start realizing, maybe it happened for me. We've all been there. Blindsided by people we trusted. Disappointed by the ones who swore they'd never hurt us. Shocked by the truth we never thought we'd see. In the moment, it feels like betrayal. But with time, you start to notice a pattern. Every time someone's true colors came out, it wasn't random. It was timed. It was precise. It was God's way of stepping in, pulling back the curtain and saying, I'm about to show you something you need to see. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's when you realize we've all met people who seem perfect on the surface. They smile at the right moments. They say the right things. They know exactly how to play the role that makes you feel safe, valued, and even loved. For a while, you believe them. You believe in their character, in their loyalty, in the image they present to the world. And maybe you even build parts of your life around that belief. But here's the truth. A mask can't stay on forever. It gets heavy. It starts to crack. And when God says the time is right, that mask falls and you see the truth you couldn't or maybe wouldn't see before. When God allows that moment to happen, it's rarely comfortable. It's rarely neat. The truth doesn't come wrapped in a bow. Instead, it often arrives in moments you least expect. A slip of the tongue, a hidden message found by accident, a story that doesn't line up, an action that contradicts every promise they made. It's in those moments that you feel something shift inside. Confusion at first, maybe even disbelief, but slowly a light starts to pierce the darkness. You begin to see the person for who they are, not who they pretended to be. And here's where it gets real. When that mask slips, it's not just them being revealed, it's God answering prayers. You didn't even know you prayed. Sometimes you've been asking God for guidance, for clarity, for protection. Sometimes you didn't even use words. You just felt something off deep down in your spirit, but couldn't put your finger on it. That's when God steps in and says, enough. Watch closely. I'm about to show you. And when he does, you can't unsee it. It can feel like betrayal, but it's actually rest. The moment the mask falls is the moment the danger is exposed. Think about it. As long as you only saw the image they projected, you couldn't protect yourself. You were loving, trusting, and investing in a version of them that never really existed. But once God reveals the truth, you can make choices based on reality instead of illusion. That's his mercy at work. He doesn't want you trapped in relationships, friendships, or environments built on lies. He wants you free, even if the path to that freedom means walking through the pain of disappointment. Sometimes you wonder why he didn't show you sooner. Why let you spend months or years believing the mask? But God's timing is not our timing. There's a reason the exposure happens when it does. Maybe you weren't ready to handle the truth before. Maybe seeing it earlier would have pushed you to deny it, justify it, or fight against it. Maybe there were lessons you needed to learn, strength you needed to build, or signs you needed to collect before you could accept the reality in front of you. God knows the exact moment when your eyes and your heart will be open enough to see and strong enough to act. When the mask slips, it often comes with a flood of memories, little red flags you ignored, gut feelings you brushed off, inconsistencies you explained away. Suddenly, it all makes sense. You realize God had been whispering warnings all along, but now he's made it impossible to ignore. This isn't just exposure for the sake of exposing, it's confirmation. It's his way of saying, you weren't crazy, you weren't overreacting. This is who they really are. That clarity is a gift, even if it doesn't feel like one right away. And here's the hard part. When the truth comes out, you can't put the mask back on for them. You can't pretend you didn't see what you saw. You can't go back to the comfort of believing in a false image. God doesn't pull back the curtain so you can close it again. He reveals so you can respond. That might mean stepping back. It might mean ending something you thought would last forever. It might mean facing the reality that some people were never for you. They were just for the benefits of being connected to you. The slipping of the mask is also a test of your faith. Will you cling to the illusion because it's easier, or will you trust that God knows what he's doing? When the exposure happens, you have a choice. See it as the end of something you valued or the beginning of something healthier, safer, and more real. God will never strip something from you without having something better in mind, even if that better doesn't show up right away in that moment. It's tempting to feel anger toward the person who wore the mask, to dwell on how they fooled you, how they wasted your time, how they played a role so convincingly. But that anger will keep you tethered to what God is trying to free you from. Instead, see it for what it is, divine intervention. That's not to excuse their behavior or pretend it didn't hurt, but to recognize that you are being saved from a deeper harm. The truth is, the mask slipping isn't just about them. It's about you. It's about your growth, your discernment, your ability to listen when God speaks, even through painful revelation. Each time He reveals someone's true character, He's training you to recognize authenticity faster, to trust your spirit more, to guard your heart with wisdom instead of walls. The mask always slips when God says it's time. You don't have to force it, rush it, or go digging for proof. You don't have to set traps or play detective. When God's ready for you to know the truth will come out, sometimes loudly, sometimes quietly, but always unmistakably. And when it does, you'll understand that what feels like loss is actually the first step towards something far more valuable: freedom from the fake and space for the real. When the truth about someone comes out, your first reaction might be pain, shock, or even embarrassment. You might replay every interaction in your mind, wondering how you missed the signs. You might feel angry with yourself for trusting them, for believing in the picture they painted, for letting them so close. But what you need to understand is this: God doesn't reveal someone's true colors to hurt you. He reveals them to protect you. It's easy to think of exposure as something negative, like a cruel unveiling meant to shame or break you down. But in God's hands, exposure is an act of mercy. It's His way of stepping between you and the harm you can't yet see. It's Him saying, "I love you too much to let you keep walking in the dark." That revelation you wish had never happened. That's Him pulling you out of a trap before it snaps shut. The protection isn't always obvious in the moment. Right now, you might only feel the sting, the loneliness after walking away, the awkwardness of severed ties, the grief of losing the version of them you thought was real. But if you could see the full picture, the conversations that would have happened, the betrayals that would have multiplied, the heartbreak that would have deepened, you'd realize just how much worse it could have been if the mask had stayed on. Think about it like a storm warning. If you didn't know the storm was coming, you'd stay outside unprepared, exposed to the elements. But when someone alerts you, you might not like the disruption to your plans, but you have time to move to safety. Exposure works the same way. God isn't trying to ruin your day. He's trying to save your life, your peace, your future. Sometimes protection comes disguised as heartbreak. You thought that friendship would last forever. You thought that relationship was from Him. You thought that opportunity was safe, and then suddenly it collapses. But that collapse isn't random. It's God dismantling something before it could collapse on top of you. He's not punishing you. He's preventing a deeper wound you might not have healed from. It's also important to remember that protection doesn't just mean keeping you from harm. It means guiding you towards something better. When He exposes what's fake, He's clearing space for what's real. As long as the counterfeit takes up room in your life, the genuine can't fit. It's painful to let go, but necessary if you want what He has for you next. And here's the thing: the exposure is often more about timing than about severity. God knows exactly when to let you see the truth. Sometimes He waits until you're strong enough to handle it. Sometimes He waits until the lies have stacked high enough that you won't be tempted to go back. Sometimes He waits until the right people are around you to support you when the fallout happens. He never exposes to leave you vulnerable. He exposes to make sure you land on your feet. So the next time the truth about someone comes out and it shakes you, try to see it through the lens of His protection. It's not about humiliating you. It's not about tearing you apart. It's about keeping you from building your life on unstable ground. It's about sparing you from the pain that would have multiplied if you had stayed. It's about making sure that the people in your life match the prayers you've been praying. You may not understand the why in the moment. You may not even agree with the timing, but one day you'll look back and see the danger you didn't know you were in, the trap you didn't see being set, and you'll realize the exposure wasn't meant to punish you. It was meant to save you. There's a certain kind of pain that comes with seeing the truth. It's sharp, immediate, and it cuts through all the comfort you once felt. You might feel like the ground has been pulled out from under you. The person you trusted, the story you believed, the picture you painted in your mind, gone in an instant, and yet, as much as it hurts, the truth is still a gift. We live in a world where lies can look polished, where fakes can dress themselves up as loyal, loving, and genuine. They can convince you that what you're holding is real gold when it's just gold-plated. But God loves you too much to let you live your life building on something that will crumble. The truth might knock the wind out of you, but it's the only foundation you can truly stand on. When the truth comes, it can feel like loss, and it is. You lose the illusion, the hope you attach to that illusion, and sometimes even the person who wore it. But loss doesn't mean you've been cheated. It means you've been spared from further deception. The longer a lie goes on, the deeper it roots itself into your heart. And the deeper it roots, the more damage it does when it's ripped out. God knows this. That's why he brings the truth forward even when it's painful. Because the wound from the truth will heal cleaner than the infection from a lie. It's easy to say you want the truth, but it's much harder to live it when it costs you something. Your comfort, your trust, your dreams. But truth is worth the cost. It sets you free from wondering, from doubting, from constantly trying to fit puzzle pieces together that never matched. The truth removes the guessing game and replaces it with clarity. And clarity is power. Sometimes we forget that the heart can survive what the mind understands. It's in not knowing, the confusion, the inconsistency that slowly wears you down. Once you know the truth, you can face it, you can mourn it, you can process it, you can move forward. Without it, you're stuck in limbo, tied to something that may never have been real in the first place. And the blessing isn't just in knowing what's false, it's also in knowing what's real. When you stop believing in the fake, you open yourself to see who actually shows up for you without a mask, who loves you without an agenda, who keeps their word without needing to be watched. That shift is priceless. The truth doesn't just protect you from the wrong people, it prepares you for the right ones. You can't truly receive what God has for you if your hands are still clinging to something that isn't from him. And sometimes the only way to make you let go is to show you exactly what you've been holding on to. That's why the truth, even in heartbreak, is mercy in disguise. You might not feel thankful for it in the moment. You might wish you could unheart it, unsee it, undo it. But the day will come when you'll look back and say, I'm glad I know. I'm glad God didn't let me keep living in the dark. I'm glad he cared enough to break my heart, if it meant saving my soul, my peace, and my future. Because no matter how deep the heartbreak runs, the truth is the only thing strong enough to set you free. When God removes someone who is pretending, it can feel like you've lost a part of your world. You think about the shared memories, the promises made, the comfort of their presence. But here's what you may not see right away. You didn't lose stability. You lost instability, disguised as stability. You didn't lose love. You lost a performance of love. You didn't lose peace. You lost the very thing that was quietly stealing it from you. Peace isn't just the absence of conflict. It's the absence of constant questioning. And fake people have a way of keeping you on edge without you even realizing it. You're always wondering why their words don't quite match their actions, why you feel unsettled after conversations, why you can't fully relax in their presence. You might not have called it stress. You just thought it was normal. But when God removes them, suddenly there's space in your life where all that quiet tension used to live. It's only after they're gone that you realize how much mental and emotional energy you were spending on managing the relationship. The second guessing, the overthinking, the rehearsed conversations in your head, the unspoken worry that at any moment things could shift. You don't have to carry that anymore. And that's where peace starts to grow in the space left behind. When the fake is gone, God's definition of win is different from ours. We often think winning means gaining something, more people, more support, more connections. But sometimes winning is subtraction. It's the removal of what drains you so you can be restored. It's the cutting away of relationships that look good on the outside but are rotting underneath. The world might see it as a loss. Heaven calls it a victory. And here's the thing, the peace you gain isn't loud or flashy. It's in the little moments. Sleeping better at night because you're not worrying about their next move. Breathing easier because you no longer feel watched or judged. Smiling more because your joy isn't being weighed down by someone else's drama. This kind of peace is priceless, and you can't put a value on it until you've lived without it for too long. Yes, it's normal to miss the familiar. Even if the relationship was unhealthy, the human heart often clings to what it knows. But remember, familiarity isn't the same as peace. Familiarity can keep you tied to chaos, while peace leads you into freedom. God isn't trying to leave you empty. He's trying to fill you with the kind of calm that only comes when you're surrounded by people whose actions match their words, whose presence doesn't cost you your sanity, and whose love doesn't require you to constantly question it. You can mourn what you lost, but don't forget to celebrate what you gained. Because losing the fake isn't a setback. It's a setup. It's God saying, now that the counterfeit is gone, I can give you the real thing. And in the long run, that trade is worth every tear, every adjustment, and every quiet moment it takes to heal. What you think is emptiness is actually God making room for lasting peace. And that's a win every single time. We often assume that everything and everyone who comes into our lives must have been placed there for a reason, maybe even by God himself. But not every connection is divine. Some are distractions dressed as blessings. Some are lessons disguised as opportunities, and some are traps wrapped in charm. When God sees that something in your life didn't come from him, he will remove it, not out of cruelty, but out of love. At first, that removal can feel like rejection. You wonder what you did wrong, why they changed, or why things fell apart so suddenly. You replay conversations looking for clues, but sometimes there's no fault to be found. It's simply God doing a clean sweep of anything that was never part of his plan for you. If he didn't send it, it won't stay. The truth is, we can accidentally invite things into our lives that God never intended for us. Maybe it's out of loneliness, impatience, or the desire to fill a void. Maybe it's because we ignored small red flags in the beginning. God knows that if those things remain, they'll pull you away from where he's trying to take you. So he steps in and removes them, even if you're not ready to let go. It's like a gardener pulling weeds. To the untrained eye, the weeds might blend in with the flower. They might even look healthy for a while, but a good gardener knows what doesn't belong. And he knows that if it stays, it will choke out the life of what's real. God is that gardener. He won't let what's fake or harmful take root in the soil of your life, no matter how attached you've become to it. And here's something important to remember. God never takes without giving. If he removes something, it's because he has something better aligned with his plan for you. The problem is, if your hands are already full of what he never sent, there's no room to receive what he has prepared. That's why the removal comes first. It's an act of preparation, not punishment. When he takes someone or something out of your life, it's a signal, not that you failed, but that you're being redirected. That relationship, that opportunity, that friendship may have looked like it fit, but God knows the hidden motives, the unseen consequences, and the future you can't see yet. And if it doesn't lead to where he's taking you, he won't let it stay. It's natural to feel the loss, to grieve what's gone, and to wonder why it happened the way it did. But over time, you'll start to see the protection in the removal. You'll see that it was mercy, not rejection. You'll realize that what you thought was essential was actually a weight holding you back, and you'll thank him for loving you enough to take away what he never sent in the first place. There are moments when someone walks out of your life, and it feels like the end of something you weren't ready to lose. You question why it happened, why they changed, or why circumstances force them to leave. You might even pray for God to bring them back, not realizing that their leaving was his answer to a prayer you prayed long before. Sometimes we ask God for peace, for clarity, for protection, or for his will to be done, and then we expect those prayers to be answered in a neat, painless way. But God's answers don't always come wrapped in comfort. Sometimes the way he gives you peace is by removing the person who keeps disturbing it. Sometimes the way he protects you is by shutting the door you keep trying to walk through. Sometimes the way he gives you clarity is by letting someone reveal their true self and walking away for good. The problem is we often only connect the dots in hindsight. At first, their exit just feels like loss. You see the empty space they leave behind and forget the chaos, the uncertainty, or the hidden harm that came with them. But God sees both the visible and the invisible. He knows what their presence would have cost you in the long run, and he answers your prayer by cutting that cost before it bankrupts your spirit. Think about it. How many times have you looked back on someone leaving your life and thought, I didn't see it then, but I'm so glad they're gone now? That's the proof. That's God showing you that what you thought was abandonment was actually deliverance. We forget that unanswered prayers can be blessings, but so can unexpected answers. God might have heard you praying for joy, for strength, for a healthier future. And in his wisdom, he knew you couldn't step into any of that with certain people still attached to you. So he answered your prayer not by adding something new, but by subtracting what was holding you back. Yes, it can still hurt. It can still be confusing. You can still miss them, but as you heal, you begin to realize that God's now in the moment was actually a yes to something better. Their exit wasn't random. It was strategic. It was God's way of freeing up space in your life for blessings you couldn't receive while your hands were full of what was never meant to stay. Some exits are painful, but they're also purposeful. And one day you'll look back at the goodbye you didn't want to face and see that it was one of the best answers to prayer you ever received. When God shows you the truth, it's never to destroy you. It's to deliver you. Every mask that slips, every exposure, every heartbreak, every unexpected goodbye is part of his plan to protect your peace, guard your future, and guide you toward what's real. The people he removes, the lies he reveals, the doors he closes, they're not random events, they're divine interventions. You may not understand them in the moment, but one day you'll look back and see that nothing was taken from you that you truly needed. And everything you gained was worth the pain of letting go. God doesn't just want you to survive fake people. He wants you to live free, surrounded by the real, anchored in his truth, and walking in a peace that can't be shaken. And that is a life worth trusting him.